How Tech Hub empowering innovators.
This is our third session, our artificial intelligence training. So previously were looking at how machines learn, how machines uh, get information, how machines learn basically. So today we are going to try and work with the tools themselves. And in this session, we will be exploring the large language models, um, how to use AI tools like ChatGPT effectively, how to generate images. That's also an interesting skill. How to generate images using these AI tools, and then how to ask AI questions, or basically how to get information out of AI as prompt engineering. And we're going to also look at the AI ethics and its limitations. So, a question will rise up: what are large language models? Large language models basically are AI systems trained on massive amounts of text. Previously, when we were looking at machine learning, we were very specific and say where there is learning or intelligence, there is data. So, uh, AI systems, sorry, AI large language models, the large language models are basically run on data. So they are systems that we first train using the information or data that we have, but this time using text. The text is the text part of the tools. It's a text part. The large that's why they are named large language models. And then they can also understand and generate human-like text. Uh, from the data or information we have, these AI systems, they learn patterns. They learn patterns in the language, so in the information given to them. They also learn facts and use that information to reason and create something or a response out of it. For examples of the large language models that we have right now, ChatGPT Cloud, name them, Gemini Copilot, and very many others. But now they are at a level of multimodal. These are now the sources or the information mostly that we get that are in text form are the books that are published. Then we have the websites on the web, basically the internet. So we have these tools now crawl around websites on the internet to get information. And we have articles and more other sources of information. How does ChatGPT work? Or how does AI tools work? How does any other AI tool work? First, you need to understand how to question or instruct the tool. That's basically prompt writing or prompt engineering. So you give it a prompt, and then from that prompt, it can have a response. How it, after giving it the prompt or the question or the instruction, this AI now breaks down the text you've provided into pieces. It does this by it does this to help it understand the question or what you've put in as a prompt. And most times this is aided by deep learning through neural networks. Then it's going to use that to predict what words should come next. This is, for example, remember these tools or these large language models have been trained on massive amounts of data or text. So most of the times, if it's a question, we train them through supervised training. Supervised training is, we talked about this during machine learning. I'm going to give it a question and an answer. Okay. So it goes through its data, checks it, finds a pattern, and it uses that pattern to now predict the next words. And now, through that process, it generates the response one at a time. We have seen tools do this if you've used these tools. Then it uses the patterns from the learned data, training data. So the patterns from the learning training data is what it uses to finally give a response. So it's like having an advanced autocomplete or basically an automated tool that looks for a pattern and information that falls in the same category as your question to give a response. So, what ChatGPT can do and what it cannot do. When I'm using ChatGPT because it's the most common tool, or it's what we have used commonly, most of us. So, when we talk about instructions and questions from our previous slide, the prompt engineering part of it, most of us have used ChatGPT or any other tool mainly for questions. If you check the history of your tool, you find things like what, how, where, this, and that. Those are questions. So, ChatGPT and other tools help answer questions. They can answer questions. They can write and explain code. I'm going to share as you see from my screen, I'm going to share my AI, my ChatGPT. So this is how you write a code. Let's say you write, okay, I'm going to write this prompt. Let's say uh, using Python. Python is a programming language. Design a calculator. In fact, write a code of a calculator. Okay, in fact, design a calculator. As simple as that. And explain the code. That's the prompt. And when I click enter, you see that it now writes the lines of code and afterwards explains the code. As simple as that. Then it can create content, let's say essays, stories, and emails. Most of us have used tools to respond to emails professionally, write essays, write stories, do a lot of things. Okay. Then it can summarize long text. That means I can feed it with specific information and I ask it to summarize it, or I can attach a PDF that is maybe 15 pages and I want it to summarize everything that is in the PDF, and then I get the context of the whole information. It can translate languages. So languages, let's say, it's one of the massive informations or data that's being given to these tools. At some point, when the data is massive or is a lot, we call this big data. And big data most of the times is used by deep learning. So we get massive information of data like languages because there are a lot of languages in the world, and then we give it to the tool. So any language that you think of, at least an AI tool can translate to what you can understand. You can also use it as a tool to brainstorm ideas. Then you can also have this tool help us explain complex topics to simple ones, to simplify them. Then things like solving math problems and finally debugging and improving writing. This all one tool can do it. Not necessarily ChatGPT, but also our tools like Copilot and name them. What they cannot do. Now, what they cannot do in this part, we I prepared this also looking at the older versions of these tools. Today we may have advanced versions that do a lot of things, but in the start, tools like ChatGPT could not access the internet in real time. They could not access information on the internet in real time. So that means they could not generate information and then give references, let's say, or links that can take you to our website or a page. That's accessing the internet in real time. So they couldn't crawl the web. That's for older versions. But for newer versions, like the one we are using today, that's 4.3 something, and maybe the premium versions of ChatGPT, those ones can access internet in real time. It cannot know events after its training cut-off date. Let's say if I train a model about brain surgery, and of course, brain surgery is a process. Brain surgery is a process that has a beginning and can come and has an end. And then that information where it's ending, no one knows. So that means even the model is going to end there. That's where its knowledge is going to end. So that's a limitation. So it cannot have personal opinions or feelings. It's just a tool. Okay. Then um, it cannot remember previous conversations unless in the same session. I'm going to show you this practically. Check now I'm in the first session, a new session. I began like a new chat. Then I ask it, what is a map? Yeah, it's going to give me the answer. So that's the answer. So I close up this chat and I start a new chat. See? But I want to continue from what is a map. Let's say I'm going to ask a question like this. Using the previous conversation, can I? It cannot remember because this is a new chat. If I was in the same chat that I asked the question, and I ask another one, but in the same chat, it could remember. That's also a limitation. Then you cannot be 100%. It can never be 100% accurate. These tools can never be 100% accurate all the time. That's why they have disclaimers like tools can make mistakes. Like ChatGPT can make mistakes, maybe under the response. So you have to take time and look through the important information. It can never replace human expertise and judgment because first and foremost, the human beings are the creators of AI. Are the people who have written the code to create or give AI its ability to learn from the data and think. So there's no way expertise like that can be taken up. But there is some truth about it. So there is reasonable doubt there. Then we perform physical tasks. Perform physical tasks. It cannot perform physical tasks. That is self-explanatory. And our next interesting part is the art of asking AI the right questions. Basically, prompt engineering. How do we ask questions to AI and we get the best responses? That's why we now have things like a bad prompt and a good prompt. You see? Now I'm gonna share my screen so we go step by step. I'm gonna share my ChatGPT. I'll do this practically. So looking at my screen, I have the ChatGPT window open. We're gonna start by testing the bad prompt. So I'm gonna ask a simple question. I'm gonna ask a simple question like, "Tell me about," or a simple prompt. "Tell me about dogs." It's short, brief. But now the large language model is going to the large language model is going to do a general search, maybe on the internet or through its data, find patterns, and it will give generic answers to this. It can talk about all types of the dogs, can tell you this and that, tell you all the things you have to consider, but you don't need all that information. Maybe your main, like I've put in here, that same prompt, and you see that the response I'm getting is a longer string of explanations. But maybe what I need is something specific, a prompt like this. I'm going to put in this prompt, write a 200 word beginner's guide. There is that highlight, beginner's guide. That means it's my first time to have a dog maybe at home. To choosing the right dog breed, you see, I'm being specific, choosing the right dog breed for apartment living. Basically, I'm also telling the large language model that I'm having a space, but this is a space I'm having, an apartment. So I need to live with this dog. So focusing on the size and the temperament of the dog, those are the qualities, those are the things I'm considering. So I'm asking the large language model that I'm considering these things. Help me choose the dog. Do you see that prompt, that kind of prompt is broad, it is specific, and it has context. So I'm gonna put in this prompt. You see that when I put in the prompt, the response I get is brief, fasting, and I think it is specific to its response and the point. You see that it talks about the color and all of that. So I can use that to now choose a dog. So going back to our slide, you see that the better your prompt, the better the response. Then Simple techniques of prompt engineering, things you should consider. First, you should be specific, as I mentioned. You have to include details about what you want. Then you have to provide context. I talked about this too. You explain the situation or purpose of that specific situation. Then you set constraints. That means you have to be specific in things like the length of, let's say, the information you're looking for. You can just to keep it, to keep your choices low, and the format, the tone, and the audience, which audience that is looking at this kind of information, and what should they consider if they're making any choices. What should they look at first? Then another important technique is giving examples. You have to consider giving examples so that this model here can have a specific part or partner it matches with its data that is being trained on to give you the best response. See, so you show what you're looking for. Then we have what we call the refining part, the iteration. You have to do at least one or two refineries before you go up with the final decision that you're choosing this kind of response. What I mean by this is when I ask the first time, yes, the AI tool is going to give me an answer or a response. The important part is go through the response. If you feel like there's something that is missing, the tone, the format, whatever it is, go ahead and write another prompt, being specific on what you've identified as maybe something you want to add on, or something you want to remove, or you want to change, or the response is like this. Be specific on what you're writing and then refine as we are looking at it. So you can have different versions of the same answer. Then you can choose the best one. So that's the meaning of iteration or refining the results. Then we can go ahead and assign roles. So you can ask a tool or a large language model to be in position to take up a specific profession so it can use the information in that part as that profession. This always helps. You assign roles, for example, acting as a teacher and explaining, let's say as a beginner. This can help a match to get better results. Best prompt engineering, the do's and the don'ts. These are already things we have explained, I think, from the previous slide. Things like being clear, simple languages. You let's say you break the complex tasks into simple steps so it can do, let's say, step by step. And also, some large language models cannot take up a lot of tasks. It can be perfect if the task is kinda at a limited level. So you can give it in bits. You can give you can give you can give the AI model the task. If the task has a long train, or if a human being could take like a month to do this task, so that means for you, you're going to break it down. Yes, the tool can do it in a day, but break down the tasks. Simplify desired format. Let's say if you want the response or the results in a list, paragraph, or a table format. The AI tool can always uh, help with this. Then we can include examples. Already seen this. Then we can ask for reasonable explanations. You can always do that. Then what you should not do, or what you should avoid doing, is being vague. Being vague can also cause bad results. And then do not assume AI knows your context. Do not assume the AI knows what you're talking about. Always try to give examples. Always try to give a little bit of context or explanation to describe the task more, so that the AI tool can understand what it's trying to work with here. Then accept first. Do not accept the first response without refining. I talked about the refining part where you have to do several iterations so you can get the best response. Then use overlay. Do not use complex languages. Don't overuse complex languages. You may end up getting a response that you may not understand yourself. Then the other interesting skill that we are going to look at here is generation of images, AI generating images. This is also a simple part where we provide the first step is you provide the text description, basically the prompt. You enter a prompt. I'm going to do this. I'm going to share my screen now. We're going to try and generate an image together. So as you see, the first step is you provide a text description. I'm going to describe something. I want, let's say, generate uh, an image of a tomato, a rotten tomato at a side of the road. You see? So the environment, I want the environment to be wet and muddy. Put in this prompt. So ChatGPT is generating. Let's see what it generates. As it generates, going back to our slide. So AI has already learned from millions and millions of images. It has already learned from millions and millions of images. So when I just that means it understands the relationship between the text or the words I'm writing and the visuals. So when I talk about when I say something like tomato or tomato, it understands. This is a tomato, and since he's asking for an image to be generated, I'm going to look through my images, the information I have, then I generate a tomato. Okay, going back to our image, you see that it has a red tomato at the side of the road. The road is muddy and the environment is wet. Generates new image matching your description. We saw that. So using the description I gave it, it generated the image. Then the refining part, how I refine these images. Maybe I now want it to be fresh. So make the tomato fresh. Put in the prompt and it's going to generate. So you see now the tomato is fresh. Maybe the next thing is uh, since this tomato is looking more oval, I'm going to ask it, can you make the tomato at least a bit more round? Let it generate. So this is now the refining part. You asking it to do a simple changes so you have a perfect image. You see. Now I'm going to also consider using another AI tool with its generation speed. So I'm going to switch to Google Gemini, and I'm going to give it the same prompts I gave to ChatGPT, and we see what it get. So the first prompt that you see, put it there, and it's see. So you see that Gemini is kind of faster while it's generating the image. So the image generated here is the image generated. You see it's a rotten tomato. The road is kind of different from the one GPT, but the weather is still wet. So there's a similarity. Then refining part, I'm gonna now ask it to make the orange fresh, the tomato fresh. And here you have it. The orange is now fresh. Kind of there are similarities, but every language model has a way it pictures the tomato. You see that. Then finally, I'm gonna ask it to add a green tomato to it, so we see a difference. Can it understand a green tomato and a red goose? You see that when we already asked for a tomato, it just brought a red tomato, like the tomato is already ripe. It didn't consider to add in the green one. So I want to know if it understands what a green tomato is. So you see that, yeah, it now has a green tomato. So as simple as that, the refining continues. You can always do that. So going back to our slides, our next page is there now, the AI ethics. AI ethics, important considerations. We have bias, like you just saw the tomato part. Most of the AI tools may understand that know that the tomato part, the tomatoes are all red. So when you ask it on the first attempt, it will only give you a red tomato. That's bias already. Then misinformation. Then we have privacy. Misinformation means that you can generate false but convincing content. Then we have the copyright part. A lot of information is being used by the AI tools that's copyrighted, published, and at some point we may not have credit being given to those people. Then the job impact. AI, we use AI tools on a daily basis that impacts our job, enhances our job in a good way, and at some point, it could be in a bad way, making us lazy and all of that. Then attribution, we should the question is, should AI generated content be disclosed or not? That's a question to answer. Then the responsible use guidelines, the guidelines we have to use while using AI. One, we have to verify the information from the AI. As we talked about bias, we talked about wrong information. Then we don't have to use critical information, things like credit card information on your AI, because you're not the only one that is using this AI tool. We have cyber criminals on the internet. They may end up on this information and you end up losing some money or even something that is so precious. Then the next part is respect copyright and intellectual property. Then be transparent about using the AI itself. We avoid generating harmful content. This is also very simple. Then we have to understand AI limitations, what it can do and what it cannot do, what we can use it for and what cannot use it for. But right now, AI is becoming limitless. Then we have to use a tool, and we have to use the AI language models as a tool, not as a replacement of our thinking. So we have to stay creative as we use these AI tools. Now, uh, the future of AI tools, where we think the AI tools are going, or where it is already, more multi-language, multi-modal AI, text, image. We see that most of these can do that. They can produce audio, they can produce videos, they can create images and text at the same time. So better personalization, AI assistants, and more as you see them. Then looking ahead from for our next session, we shall be trying to build our own. I'll be taking you through a guide to build your own project as we have gone through from the knowledge you've gotten. Then we shall apply what you've learned and create something really and functional. Okay, so thank you so much for the time, and we meet in the next section.